July 19th, 2006, the Jamestown Jammers presented at its hot stove dinner John Pierson, the field coordinator of the Florida Marlins. This year marks John Pierson's third season with the Marlins and his 11th in professional baseball. John has been with his current position since November of 2003 after serving as the athletic director for Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona. Before joining the Marlins, Pierson was with the Chicago Cubs minor league system for 4 seasons, 1997 to 2002. He spent 1 season as the hitting coach for the rookie-level Mesa team and 3 years at the organization's minor league hitting coordinator. Pierson was the hitting coach at Arizona State University for 3 seasons prior to joining Chicago, and served in that capacity at Grand Canyon from 1980 to 1991. He is a middle infielder in the Kansas City Royals minor league system from 1973 to 1976. John Pierson, field coordinator for the Florida Marlins, and here to review his players.
When I came here with the Jammers, it's always wonderful when John comes to town. He carries with him a great smile, enthusiasm. He's warm to converse with. I asked him if he wanted to stand behind the mic, and since Mr. Peterson's here with a camera, I'm going to ask you to stand behind the mic, John, because Mr. Greg is our TV guy. You're going to see this on Peterson TV, Channel 19, some night when you're in town. But please give a warm welcome to John Pierson, our field coordinator for the Florida Marlins. He's going to share a little bit. John, when you get done, we're going to leave some time for some question and answering for them. But I appreciate you taking the time on a busy day when you got a lot of other things to do for a game night. But thank you for spending time with us here tonight, and give this to you.
Okay, I appreciate it. Bear with me. I'm not used to having one of these. I'm used to being in a field setting or a clubhouse setting, and I do a lot of yelling. So this is a little different. And but just a couple things. I really appreciate this opportunity. I don't get to do this very often. Like I said, most of the time my job responsibilities are on the field and taking care of issues with the different teams in the different towns. But basically, it's more with the staff and our players. So this is a great opportunity for me. So I appreciate it. Couple things before I kind of describe my job to you, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I just want to kind of give you some of the levels that we're at, and as far as professional baseball, get a feel of what we're trying to do. As you probably know, this opportunity for these kids to play in Jamestown is very important. This is a first-year level league for players. We get some high school kids, not too many, and mostly first-year college players here out of the colleges around the U.S. that we draft out of. It's a very important level, and it's a very tough level. For me, I tell these young players that your first few years is survival, and because it's so difficult, it's such a big transition for them, that it's very important that they come in and adjust. And we're not so much concerned about statistics and those kind of things, but how do they adjust? And of course, we want them to succeed, but it's a transition time, and survive. That's what I tell them. And sometimes they don't understand what that means. What that means to me is be respectful, work hard, and keep your mouth shut. Those things, if they do those things, we're in a pretty good situation. And they're very fortunate to come in a community like this and be able to play. And as they get into the season and they get to know people and they get to know the community, they build bonds, and they really appreciate what you guys offer here. But again, it's a transition for them, and we want them to win. That is because we want them to learn how to win, because it's a special mindset to win, and that's what we're trying to do, is get them to the big leagues so they can win. So there is pressure here to win. The trouble is it's kind of a tough situation sometimes, because there's so much movement. We've already lost. You can't say lost, but we already moved up the first-round pick from this year. He was doing very well here. Well, it's good that he got sent up. Let's put it that way. But it hurts this team a little bit. But that's part of the business, because as they graduate, we got to get them to the big leagues. And when they show that they've conquered a level, we have to move them. And that puts a special situation on managers and players and staff here. So sometimes we're moving players so it weakens the ball club. And it's their job to do the best they can and keep it going. So sometimes they don't seem to be playing as well as they possibly can, but there's a lot of different factors in there. Last night I watched him play, and I was kind of disappointed, as I think some of the fans were, but you got to remember that they just came off a all-night road trip, and they got into the city at 8:30 in the morning. But those are part of that's not an excuse, because they have to learn how to do that. Because as they go up the levels, it even gets worse. When they get to the Double-A level, they're on the bus for 12 hours and drive all night, play a doubleheader, and you know the demands are very, very hard on these kids. And the other big thing, the adjustment, is these kids are all stars at the level that they came out of either their colleges or their high schools. I'm not sure. I don't think we have any high school kids here this year. Sometimes you'll get a second-year player that came out of high school. But primarily these are college kids. But my point is, they were stars where they played, the best players on their teams, the best players in their leagues. And now they're coming in and playing professional baseball, and they think they're a gift, and they've got a lot of abilities and gifts that are God-given. But when you put them in a pool of players that are of like talents, then they have to deal with failure, and that's a whole new aspect for some of these kids. And so they again, then they have to be tough. They have to learn to grow up and be tough. So basically, we're very pleased to be here, and it gives them a great opportunity. It's a good league. The Marlins have been in it a long time, and before that it was the Expos, and as you know, most of our front office were Expo people years back. So there's been a long tie here. So we really appreciate this opportunity to play here, and the kids really learn a lot. Quickly over what my job is. Sometimes I'm not sure what my job is, but I'll try to give you the guidelines from what my big league responsibilities on down. As far as major league responsibilities, I go to major league camp, spring training camp, and work with in major league spring training as an instructor, and help out with whatever they ask me to do. My expertise is in hitting, and so I spend a lot of time working with hitters in the cages under the major league hitting coach, Jim Presley, what he wants me to do. And then I work with the infielders in a support role with Perry Hill. I do that for a part of major league spring training, but my big part of my job starts in spring training. I organize and oversee all of the minor league spring training. And I'm putting in 15-hour days in spring trainings for about 45 days straight. So that's a big haul on me, and I'm responsible for all of that. So that's a big part of my job, and it goes from setting rosters to moving players to organizing everything, from all the field activities, the daily activities, from the workouts to the games, all those things, meetings, instruction periods. I organize and set all that, and so that's a big part of my job. And then when season starts, in season, as George said, I travel. I go from affiliate to affiliate. I spend about 3 weeks out of the month on the road, and I'm home maybe 5 days, and then I'm back out on the road. The nice thing is I get to go home. The hard thing is to travel. I'm in a plane or in a new hotel, new city every 4 or 5 days. What's nice now is I've done it enough to where I collect enough points where I get upgraded a little bit, so I get treated pretty good. So, but it's a hassle. It gets tiring hauling your stuff from town to town and getting on planes, and I'm not much of a flyer anyway. But I go from town to town, from Albuquerque. I just came from Albuquerque, which is our AAA club. Our AA affiliate's in Zebulon, Carolina, which is outside Raleigh. Our high A is in Jupiter. Our low A, the full season, is in Greensboro. Then the next level is here in Jamestown, and the next level that we have is Gulf Coast League. It's a rookie level. It's basically for high school players. Then we have a team, we have an academy in the Dominican Republic, and we have a team, an academy Venezuela, which I'm going to the first part of August. At the end of this trip, I'm going to go and see, oversee that and see what we got going there. And basically, my in-season responsibilities are, again, coming in and overseeing, making sure the staff's doing what they're supposed to do as far as our fundamentals and the way we approach the game and the way we play the game, because it's a set thing throughout the organization from the top to the bottom, so these kids all know what's expected of them as far as bunt plays, rundowns, all the fundamentals of the game. So when they go from level to level, it's consistent. I make sure that that's done right. I make sure that the players are behaving themselves. I like to, I guess the best way to say it is I'm kind of like the principal of the school. I deal with all aspects, but in season I deal with a lot of discipline things, and which I don't enjoy, but I think I'm pretty good. Somehow I've gotten pretty good at it, I guess, because I keep getting shoved into it. And so when I come into a ballpark, it's funny because the players are, my reputation is I have to deal with a lot of bad things. So, and I generally deal with them pretty harshly. So when I come to the ballpark, half of them are either they hide from me or they won't look at me. So it's kind of a strange job in those aspects. But again, I oversee all the field operations. I'm the liaison between the minor leagues and our front office people. I'm a field person, personnel, and I'm the liaison to the front office with Brian Chatton, who's our minor league director, Jim Fleming, who oversees our whole development and scouting system, and then the complete front office with Larry Beinfest as our general manager. And it's a multi-tiered thing, and it's a big organization with a lot of communication and making sure that we're doing the right things. And there's a lot of money that's put into this, so it's very important that we do it right. And again, I oversee all this. All the managers, coaches, all the roving instructors report to me, and like I said, I'm kind of the principal of the school, so I oversee all that. It's a good job. I love it. All I do is travel and watch baseball games and mess around on the baseball field, so it's a great job. Trouble is, I'm away from home, so my wife doesn't like me very much sometimes. But that's basically what I do. If y'all have some questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And yes, sir.
Yeah, you're clearly on the player development side. How do you interface with the scouting and like draft day? Do you guys have any input at all, other than maybe here's some holes to fill?
We all of our rovers go into the draft room on the draft day. It's a 3-day affair. The first day is nothing but meetings, and they go over their players that they're looking at. They consult us as far as needs. Where are we strong? Where are we weak? What levels do we need? And this draft, the year before, we were so heavy in pitching, and this draft we tried to go more for position players. And it's basically the draft is filling out this roster and the Gulf Coast roster. We are consulted on videotape. They have us sit and watch videotape and break down swings, arm actions, those kind of things. So we have. It's not our big thing, but we are consulted, and we're there through the whole draft and consulted on mechanics and needs in the organization.
Follow-up question is, as we see these players out here, we know through talking to the manager and coaching stuff, they're all under various guidelines, and whether it's pitch counts, whether it's when and where they'll be playing. Is that something that you set, or is that something that comes from Fleming, Chatton? Where in the pecking order does that set up?
It starts with Fleming.
Does it?
And actually, he's the main guy, but there's input from Larry Beinfest. He consults with Jim Fleming. He's a great man to work for because he is a very good communicator. He asks for opinions. He gathers a lot of information, but he's the one that sets policy. Mm-hmm. And he after communicating and talking with the people that are involved and the experts in their fields, then he sets policy. And that pitch counts, all that is set from Jim to Brian Chatton and on to the coordinators and on down through us. It's all done, basically it starts there.
I could hog the whole thing, so go ahead.
John, can you explain a little bit about the communication web that happens on a daily basis? When you talk about coming in from Albuquerque, but how do you know what goes on here in Jamestown? Can you talk a a little bit about that and how that operates in the big scheme of the Florida Marlin umbrella?
It's very wide. It's amazing, and it's a lot of it's seen is obviously not seen. I'll just give you my typical day. When after a ball game at night, I'll go home and I'll check my voicemail, and let's see, on the phone I have on my Audix I get reports from the pitching coaches, from the hitting coaches, from the managers, and from the trainers at every level. So when
Every level meaning AAA.
AAA all the way down. So how many teams did I say? Albuquerque, Carolina, Jupiter, Greensboro, Jamestown, Gulf Coast, Dominican, and Venezuela. That's 10. So I have a minimum of 30 voicemails that I listen to. I don't get to them all at night. I have to tell you that I get a cup of coffee in the morning and basically that takes me about 4 hours at night or in the morning. And combined with that is I get because we're the age of technology. Each one of the Rovers and each ball club has a computer, and on the internet we get sent out all the game reports. So I have to review all those game reports. So we're talking about a 4 or 5 hour downtime when I'm listening to the reports and reviewing game reports on the computer and answering all my emails that I get from the front office. So it's very extensive. Like George said, we've got 10 teams. We get game reports, nightly game reports, and nightly reports from not only the coaches but the injury reports, all those things.
You get it. Who else gets that, John?
It goes from Larry Beinfest down, and they get all that stuff because they're, even as you know now, even more so. Our organization is so tuned into the minor leagues because, as you're aware of, we've got an awful lot of kids in the big leagues now that were just a couple years ago were playing right here, and it's exciting. It's very difficult, but it takes a lot of communication, and we're open for a lot of criticism. But I think they fared pretty well. Those young guys have gotten up there and have performed pretty reasonably, I think. And what's going to be exciting is another year or two we may have struck gold. So, but that all starts with the communication and starts with Larry and moves on down. It's a vast network, and it's only run properly if we all communicate. So there's a lot that goes unseen. Yes, sir.
Doug Davis, is he still with you? And if so, what capacity?
Doug is with the Toronto Blue Jays now as a Double-A manager. Yes, he was very valuable for us. As you know, he went to the big leagues for 2 years, was on the World Championship staff, came back to us to be the catching coordinator last year. Doug loves managing, and one of the reasons he went to the big leagues as a bench coach, as a right-hand man at McKeon, and you have to be have managerial experience. And Doug wants to get back to the big leagues, and his fastest way back he felt was getting back into managing. So he took a job. We sorely miss him. He's a great man, did a great job for us, but he wanted to get back into managing. So he took a job with the Toronto Blue Jays.
You know, a few years ago, Moneyball hit, the press, and, Baseball America just named Bill James as one of the, most influential people over the past 25 years. Where do you see that cycle in scouting? Do you really see that, the metric-based type of system gaining hold, or is that just a fad that occurred over the last few years and go back to more of the intangibles?
Well, that's a good question, and baseball's always trying to find a way to save money, and it always seems to be in the minor leagues or in scouting because the payrolls and the cost of the big leagues is so huge that it seems to be that in scouting or development is where they try to save money. So that's one of the cost ways that they try to save money. They try to be more scientific, and baseball's a very faddish business where it's an old school. It's weird because they try a lot of new things, but they stick to a lot of old traditional stuff. The Marlins, as we look it up, we try to take off the good stuff that we see of the new stuff, and we try to hang on to the old traditional stuff that's good. We The Moneyball thing is even if you're not familiar with it, it's Billy Beane and the way he's built the Oakland Athletics and the way he's gone about scouting. And basically it's performance scouting. They look at statistics, they analyze statistics, and they take away a little bit of the, well, a lot of the arbitrary old-time scouts watching players play and evaluating players on those ways. We're in between on that. I think there's some validity to Bill James and his statistical analysis and Billy Beane's approach to, and they're big on college players and baseball is kind of going that way. They're trying to they're getting away from the high school. At least they're trying to force that because there's been some talk about eliminating the Gulf Coast and the Arizona leagues. That would, I don't know if you got to be familiar with George because this is going to directly affect you here. I don't know if I haven't heard recently where it's at, but there's a move in Major League Baseball, and from the organizational standpoint, most of the clubs are against this move. But Major League Baseball wants to eliminate the rookie level clubs, the Gulf Coast League and the Arizona League, which are high school players, and expand this league. What are the other short A's and A? Is it Pioneer or the Northwest League? The Northwest League is a similar league to this. They want to expand those leagues to 90 games and add an extra month or so to those seasons. And what that'll force us to do is move the draft back and stay away from high school kids. And that's Billy Beane. And a lot of that is we want to take college kids that are performers. And they say it's cost saving, but I don't think it is because we're going to have to keep a pool of players down in Jupiter in our extended program, in that short season program, to facilitate our other clubs when people get hurt. If you don't have that pool down there, you run short of players because people are getting hurt all the time, and you have to be able to replenish that stock with a pool of players down there. So I don't know how it's going to work. So it's an interesting question. It's long-winded, but trying to get back to it. We want to keep our short season young clubs, and but we want to be able to get the technology into the game and help us any way we can in evaluating players. Yes,
Scouting combines, that was a very popular process. Are you part of one now?
No, not right. And this along the same lines.
Yeah.
It's going towards that. They're talking about setting up scouting combines for baseball. Scouting is an old, traditional, conservative institution, and it's they don't want to change a whole lot. And I think there's real value into getting good scouts that know players, because it's as we all know, it's a very tough business, and we're wrong all the time. It's the only business that you can be as wrong as much as we are and be successful. It's amazing. Of every 100 kids that we sign and draft, 3 get to the big leagues. So we have a 3% success rate of drafting and signing players, and that's good. That's considered good. So the combines, that's part of the move with Major League Baseball. They're trying to, but you know, it gets back to. They tried to do the same thing with the Scouting Bureau. George, were you familiar with the Scouting Bureau? Major League Baseball set up a Scouting Bureau for cost-saving measures too. So this was about 20 years ago. They set up the Scouting Bureau. They hired full-time scouts to scout, and their job was to scout the U.S. and send all their information into all the major league clubs, with the thought that okay, they can cut back their scouting, save money in that area, and they can use this pool of information. But as the years, we still have the Scouting Bureau, but they use it less and less and less. It hasn't worked too well. So again, each organization tries to hire the best people they can, and when they feel like they've got a good pool of scouts, they want to protect them because it's a competitive type thing. So it may go that way because Major League Baseball has a say in it, but I know that the clubs are resisting that. Yes, sir.
To a 90, like in this league, went to a 90-game schedule. Would that hinder your college players? still going to college, they start earlier and they can finish later, they have to be back in college.
Well, what it'll do is it'll when we break spring training, is we'll send a full set of players here, and they'll stay in extended for a little while, but then they'll come here when the season opens, and then when the draft starts, they'll all come here. It'll be a college draft. They'll push the draft back, and the players that are ready to come here, they'll send them here, and then what happens? We have to release a lot of players. So I don't know if it's a good situation or not. I mean, I think it'd probably be good that they play 90 games. The more games they play, the better. But I'm not real sure if it's real solid yet. And I haven't heard a whole lot recently on it.
John, will they ever expand the college program to do away with some of the lower minor leagues? Expand the college?
I hope not.
What are the pros and cons on the low minor league and the college?
Because I've done both. I was a college coach for 13 years, and I coached at a D2 level for a while, and then I coached at Arizona State for a while. So I got a taste of all of it. And then for a while I was at the NAIA level. So I got the taste, and the junior college level. I've coached a lot of years. So I've had a lot of experience, and then I've been in pro ball for the last 15 years. So I've had a lot of, so that's, I think I can speak for that fairly well. The college game, let's do the pluses. I think if you're it's very good for you have more effect on a player's life, his overall life. And George, you probably can speak to this too. As a college coach, you're almost their father. You not only worried about their performance on the field, but the classroom and all those things. You get to know the family very well because you're in their house recruiting them, and you get to know their family and the kids, and so you have a very unique situation to help them grow. The pro side, it's a business. We try to mentor and do the best we can, but the bottom line is a business. And if they don't perform, then they're going to be on their way. But that's part of it. I don't think in the long run that they will expand the colleges to help out the minor leagues, because again, professional baseball is very conservative, very set in their ways. And actually, I think it's a good division, because I think these kids need both exposures. They need that nurturing when they're young, but then they have to grow up when they get here. They have to grow up, and it's a whole different life. So I think it's good that there's a lot of separation now. The big thing that I would like to see is I'd like to see them get away from the aluminum bat. But college coaches and this is the truth, they make too much money with aluminum bats. They'll never go to a wooden bat, because college coaches are getting paid to use aluminum bats. It's a little different, but I would like to see that, because it takes these kids a full year and a half to adjust to wood, and they struggle, and it's a hard transition. So I would like to see that, but I don't think that'll ever happen.
Maybe not in your case, but in baseball case, when do they begin to look at the designated hitter, and when do they begin to develop the designated hitter? At what level?
Well, they'll tell us pretty quickly. Again, for us, we don't have that when we get to the AA level, unless we're playing an American League club. So for me, it's more developing the pitchers to be able to once they get to that level, to be able to function as a hitter, to be able to bunt, to be able to run the bases, to do all those things that they've forgotten. As far as a hitter becoming a designated hitter, they'll tell us within a couple of years whether they are by the way they play. We get a lot of guys that can play defense. We get very few guys that can hit, and sometimes we get guys that can hit, and they don't play very good defense. But it's usually the other way around. And they'll tell us by their performance. There's some kids and we'll give them a chance, but after about, I would say, 2 to 3 years, they're going to start being slotted as a DH. But if you're designated as a DH, strictly a DH in the minor leagues, you're probably not going to play in the big leagues. But for me, it's the other side is more important. The pitchers have got to learn, because they're going to play in the National League, where they have to learn how to bunt, where they have to swing the bat, where they have to run the bases. And in their development, if we don't address that before the time they get to Double-A, we lose 3 to 4 years, and they become, it's amazing how spastic they become in that short period of time when you don't hit and you don't run the bases. I've addressed our Double-A club this last time that I was in because I asked them, I go, where did you guys become non-athletes? You know, you came out of college and high school as the best players, the best athletes on your club, played all the positions, ran the bases, did everything. After 3 years in pro ball, and then we ask you to bunt or run the bases or slide, you all look like a bunch of idiots out there. And so it's amazing, we lose them. So we're addressing that, and with this young group, as they come into our mini camps, we start with the pitchers sliding and running bases and continue to hit. So another long-winded question. It's more of a concern for me with the pitchers than it is with the hitters.
Well,
Why don't they have, full National League rules in this particular league?
Well, because they're trying to specialize, and they're trying to develop the pitchers as pitchers and the hitters as hitters. So it gives the hitter it gives a manager one more slot to hit a guy so he can hit, and it gives the pitchers just one area to concentrate on to pitch. And you know, I'm not much of a, because we are a National League club, I would just as soon see them just stay with it right here. For me, it's more of an exciting game. There's more strategy because our managers get frustrated because they know that their pitching is set. They don't have to make moves. They don't have to make double switches. They don't have to strategize, pinch hit for a pitcher in an inning when he's rolling good. And they don't have to make those decisions because we have the DH and our pitching is set. These kids are all on pitch counts. When they get to that pitch count, boom, that guy's out of there, and we have another guy and it's set up before the game. They know who's pitching before the game. It has nothing to do with strategy, and it's cut and dry. And I'm not much of a fan of that, but because we do have a DH, it enables us to do that.
John, before we turn you loose, because you got to go to work. Last couple of years, can you expound on any of the players that come to the top of your head that you guys in the front office are excited about that our fans would remember, whether it be a Volstead or a Jenkins or kids that have been in Jamestown the last couple of years? I know that you don't really want to pump them up too much, but kind of give us an idea where some of our kids are headed and what they're doing.
Well, our organization is what an opportunity for kids, players in our organization, because what has happened in the big leagues with the changing of the staff, the whole structure of the organization when we sold off all the players and brought up all these minor leaguers. So that makes it an opportunity for everybody to move quickly through the minor leagues. There's guys that are going to the big leagues that would never have gotten an opportunity this soon. So it's a great opportunity to be a Marlin. And getting to that, well, of course, you know Vargas, he's back up in the big leagues, and that was fast, wasn't it? What, 2 years ago?
1 year.
1 year. And Tank's up there. Was that same time? Same time. So, boom, we've already had that happen. As far as some other kids that have moved, let's talk about the Greensboro club because that was most recently. Gabby Sanchez was well on his way. I think he was leading the minor leagues in home runs when he got hurt. There was talk that he was going to finish in Double-A this year. He's about ready to come off the DL with a broken hand and about ready to start it back up, but we're not sure what kind of timetable he is. But we would like for him to finish in Double-A so we could send him to the Fall League. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but he is a premier prospect. Volstead having a stellar year in Greensboro, as well as who else was here? Well, those are Thompson and West and Tucker are all blue chip. We're trying to protect them. They've already racked up a lot of innings in Greensboro, so we're going to back them off a little bit because they're young and we don't want to burn them out. But all of them are tremendous, and I see them all pitching in the big leagues. I really do, and that's hard to say that many kids off this club are going to pitch in the big leagues. But if they stay healthy, they're going to pitch in the big leagues. They're that good.
Now, you talk about the reports that you get after every ball game. How much time do you spend on scouting the opposition at every level?
That's not my job. I'm just concerned with.
Somebody doing that?
Yes, and part of my job is when I'm sitting in the stands, I'm not only writing notes on our players because I have to evaluate them, but if I see a player that I like, I send in a report on them, as all our rovers do. There's always scouts in the stands. We have a division of our scouting department that's pro scouts, and all they do is go to minor league games. They have different organizations that they're responsible for, and they go out and scout the opposition. It's not approach as far as games and how we try to beat them, but it's information that what players we like that we might want to have in a trade that comes up in Rule 5 and those kind of things. And then the other thing is the staff, part of their job is they have to write a report on every player, opposition player in the league. So, matter of fact, we were in there tonight and Bo's trying to get, he's about ready to drop kick his computer because he can't get his reports in the computer. And he's already got a stack of reports that he's written up, but he can't get them in the computer. And so Duff and Bo and Post are all writing reports on every player in the league. So that'll go into the office too. It's a huge information network, and it's all put together. But
You have a good man involved.
excuse me?
You have a good man involved.
I ain't got to puff up my chest on him because I'm the one that brought him into the organization. I had him when I was a Cub. He was when I was a hitting coach at the A level. He came through and just a fantastic man. And you know, he's going to be in the big leagues very soon. I mean, he has so much talent and energy and knowledge, and hopefully we'll protect him and hang on to him and utilize his talents. He's very good.
Just one quick question. Does your paths ever cross with Jamestown's Danny Lanetta?
Mine hasn't, no.
Okay. He's the director of minor league operations now with the Tigers, but also was with the Marlins for a period of time. So.
No, I haven't run into him.
John, we got to get you back to work. It's 20 up. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
On behalf of the front office staff, Jamestown Savings Bank, Mr. Russ, pass along greetings to your staff. Thank you for spending the evening. Hopefully, it's hard to get a grasp on all that happens with the Florida Marlins Jamestown campus. That's kind of like how I like to put it. We are the Florida Marlins Jamestown team. There's so much into this whole sequence that is intriguing in baseball, that keeps it somewhat unique and fresh every night. Thanks for coming out and spending the evening here with us. The Jamestown Rich Products has a contract, a player development contract with the Marlins for 2 more seasons before that comes up again. Yeah. So we're going to be with that as our parent club for at least 2 more years. And again, thank you for coming. Enjoy the night. Not a better way to spend an evening. Watch the sun go down, watch the Jammers get back on a winning streak. And thanks again for everybody coming and spending the evening with us. Thank you.